Hello everybody and welcome back to the Jeff Gordon 1/8 scale model build from DeAgostini. I hope you're doing well. Thank you for joining. We're going to start with stage 57 for package 12. And in our stage 57 we have the rear suspension trailing arm, we have the rear brake duct cooling, rear brake duct cooling scoop, rear suspension shock absorber, lower mount, and then a few packs of screws to hold it all together. And all of this is done for the right side. We'll get to the left side here shortly, but let's begin with the right side. And for the right side, we're going to take our brake cooling duct. We're going to attach that to the suspension trailing arm using 2 DP screws. You're just screwing into this, meshy, spongy kind of rubber material, so very easy. You don't have to apply a ton of force when screwing them in. Next, we're going to grab our brake cooling scoop, and we're gonna just slide that into the right side. Everything's labeled on this, so it's really nice. We're gonna slide it in like that, and then you rotate it 90 degrees so that the screw hole matches up with the trailing arm. That's gonna be done using 1 AM screw. We're gonna flip this thing over. We're gonna grab our suspension shock absorber lower mount, and then we're gonna place it on the end of the trailing arm, and then attach that using a CM screw. Fairly simple process, holds everything together, and now we'll set that to the side. And we're gonna grab our rear end axle housing assembly, and you'll see here in a second that I make a decision that is incorrect because the drive shaft attaches to that part right there. As you see it, I have it flipped over, then I flip it the wrong way and screw it together. Now it is held in with 1 AM screw, as you'll see there, but you'll notice later in the video we come back to fix this. So right now, we'll just set that to the side. We'll get our entire car back over here. We will unscrew the cross member that goes across where the drive shaft is held in place. And the reason for doing so is because we are going to be adding that rear suspension trailing arm to the rear suspension trailing arm mount. Right there, you see the left and the right mounts. Make sure you have the correct one on the correct side. If you don't, it's a pretty simple fix. It's only held together using an AM screw. Well, actually 2 AM screws, one on each side. And you want to have that mounted into the middle slot of the trailing arm mount. So as you can see here, we'll just apply those 2 screws, one on that side, flip it over, do the same thing to the other side. And one piece of advice I will have is I did screw the mounting screws back into the body of the car so I wouldn't lose them, and I have the mounts separately somewhere else. So just a little quick tip for you guys. One thing I did notice too is this was kind of loose. Crank that tight real quick. We'll set that to the side. We'll set that to the side, and that concludes stage 57, and we'll move on to stage 58. And in stage 58, it's pretty much everything we did for the right side, but for the left side, with a few extra pieces. So we have the rear suspension trailing arm left, the rear brake cooling duct left, the rear brake cooling scoop, but we also have the Panhard rod adjustment mount and the rear suspension trailing arm U-bolt mounts. So those both are left and right. Oh yeah, and a couple bags of screws to hold it all together. So as you can see there, what we did really quickly was the same thing that we did on the right side. We just did it to the left. 2 DP screws to hold the cooling hose in place. Then what we'll do is we'll grab our brake cooling scoop, the left side, same thing that we did on the right side, insert it into the end of the hose and apply that to the trailing arm with an AM screw. Again, very simple. Now this time we're going to be taking our Panhard rod adjustable mount. We're going to screw that onto the end of the suspension trailing arm for the left side. I like that it's chrome. As you can see here, CM screw right on the top. Goes together very nicely. Adds a little bit different color, obviously, to the model, to this portion of it. But anyway, we'll grab our assembly, we'll bring that back into frame, and we'll put our left side trailing arm onto the rear axle housing assembly with an AM screw. Again, this is wrong. You can see this. I don't know how I missed it, but we'll fix it here in a little bit. We're going to take those 2 AM screws and apply them to the rear suspension trailing arm mount again off the trailing arm, and we put one on the inside and one on the outside. And I'll be honest, I was feeling pretty good at this point. We were blowing through these sections. I was getting a lot done really quickly. And I even grabbed the next part, the rear axle housing, the upper half, and then I, aligned it with the screw holes. I put it together with 4 AM screws. I got it really nice and secure, only to then realize that I'm an idiot and I had it backwards, and I just had to, admit my mistakes. So on this channel, I like to show if I make a mistake or if I have a problem. So that's what you guys are seeing here. We are fixing a mistake that I had just made. I'm glad I caught it pretty early. So we can take the 4 screws out, take the upper housing off, unscrew the AM screws from the trailing arms, flip them around, and then redo all of that. And since we're doing that, I figured now is as good as time as ever to let you guys know that if you're enjoying this video and you like this series that we've been working on, please go ahead and leave a like on this video and leave a comment. Say that you guys like it, say that you guys hate it, say whatever suggestions you have in the comment sections. I know the #1 thing that I get about these videos and this series is the length and time it takes me to get them done and get them posted. I understand your guys' urgency to watch them, but I do also appreciate it. So yes, I will continue to try and get these out in a timely fashion. We are only a month behind the last one, so we're kind of on schedule. But I do have the 13th pack sitting next to me here, and the 14th pack just shipped. So don't worry guys, I will try to do better. Again, I always want to make your guys' viewing experience the best that we can on the channel. So now that that's done, we will finally be able to grab our U-bolts for this stage, and you'll notice that the stems are a little angled, and honestly, these kind of gave me a little bit of a headache to put in. I had to employ the tweezers. A lot of it I know has to be attributed to the gloves and just the shenanigans that are the gloves. But again, if you're new here, I'm sticking with the bit. We started it. We've done this whole thing with the gloves. We're going to finish it with the gloves. So pressing these home was not terribly difficult once you got them in position. I do think, though, glue would be better for them because they are just a slight press fit. They're not that good. They're not that tight in place, honestly. But again, also another bit, I'm not gluing or adding any assembly oil to this model at all. So I'm keeping it as clean as possible, but we'll set that to the side because we're done with stage 58 and we're just gonna hop right into stage 59. And oh boy, stage 59 is a doozy. We have a lot, so let's go through it really quick. Oil reservoir insulator, dry sump oil reservoir A, dry sump oil reservoir B, dry sump oil reservoir connector, drain plug, fitting A, fitting B, hose fitting, differential oil cooler, oil pipe, and a couple bags of screws to hold everything together. Whew. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take our 2 small dry sump oil reservoirs and put them on the big reservoir, and those have poke yoke features, the little notch in them to make sure that you only assemble them in one fashion. Poke yokes, if you're new here, is just a fancy term for a failsafe when you're designing something to allow it to only be assembled in one particular fashion. That way you cannot possibly screw it up. It's typically designed specifically into the part so that you cannot assemble it incorrectly. Those 2 are going to be held in with 2 AP screws. Tighten them down. It's just plastic, so you don't have to crank them down, but holds it in place and looks good. The next thing we're going to grab is the dry sump oil reservoir drain plug. It kind of gets a little bit of a press fit, but the most important thing is the AP screw that you screw in from the bottom that really holds it into place and locks that down. Now the next thing that happens is kind of funny because when I first got this package, this was already assembled together, but basically we take this insulation and press fit it over top of the oil pump reservoir, and then we take this pin and we shove it through the side to basically just hold it into place. That's all it really does. So it's a little funny piece of it, but I don't know, it doesn't seem like it's that involved necessarily. Now this little piece that we put in here is the oil reservoir fitting. We put that on with a QP screw, and that kind of locks also with the pin, but it also locks that insulation piece, that outer sheathing over the reservoir into place. Then we'll grab our fitting and we will press fit that on. This took me a while to do just because, again, I think it's the gloves. Pretty much the genesis for any and all problems with this build are those gloves, so you know, it is what it is. But we'll grab our car assembly, we'll take our dry sump reservoir assembly, we'll put that at the bottom of the car, and you see it has those 2 tabs there that will secure that assembly to the car. We do that using 2 AM screws, 1 in each side. You're screwing into metal, so a little tough. Not too bad though. Again, with assembly oil, probably be easier for you guys out there that are doing it on your own. Flipping that back over, we also have a screw that goes in the, I guess, top of the oil sump reservoir. That is an EP screw. And I had to lift it up off of the table so that I could hold it to get the screw to seat properly. Not very difficult, but just a little note there. Then we're gonna flip the whole thing back over again, and we're gonna take our differential oil cooler. We're gonna attach that to the bottom of the floor pan using 2 AP screws from the top side. And you're just screwing this into plastic, so it's not a very difficult thing to do. But like anything on this build, I do just want to say, do not over tighten the plastic because you can definitely strip these things out. So just be careful when you're doing that, as a little tip. Then we're going to insert one end of the dry sump oil reservoir connector into each of these little reservoirs. It's a very small piece, but you just have to use the tweezers. Same thing with this pipe, this hose fitting that we're going to add to the reservoir here. Pretty small, tweezers help out a ton. And then you run it through the car right there, as you can see. And with that completed, that will end stage 59. And we will now move on to stage 60. And in stage 60, we're sticking with the rear suspension parts with our upper seat left and right, our rear suspension lower seats, 2 of those, of course, our springs, 2 of them, obviously, our locking levers, also 2 of them, differential oil cooler mesh, you just saw us put that on a minute ago, we'll put the mesh over top of it, our oil hose, fitting left and right, and then a couple bags of screws. So we're already getting into it by placing the stems of these locking levers into the suspension spring lower seats. We're using AM screws to achieve that. Again, we're just into plastic, so don't over tighten it. I had to take it off camera just to make sure I was getting it right. The hard thing with these was holding them in place. They were rotating in the gloves because of the gloves. I couldn't really get a good grip on them. So in classic fashion, I had to take it off camera and do a little extra tightening with the gloves close to my body. But anyway, we got that done, and we took our spring seats and we attached them to our trailing arms using 2 UM screws. It locks them into place. I was having a tough time getting these to go as well. I think a lot of it has to do with the position of it, but also the gloves. I'm telling you guys, if you're building this model, do not use gloves. I love the springs though, by the way. These are just metal springs. They actually do act as springs. And so we take our rear suspension upper spring seats and we attach them to the tops of the springs by pushing them down and then rotating them into the locked position. It's kind of hard to explain here. The directions do a really good job of showing it, but overall, a fairly simple, probably the easiest part of the suspension so far. Then we're gonna take our hoses, our brake hoses, and we're gonna cut 2 sections, one 80 millimeters and the other 65. And then from there, we'll grab this little hose fitting, and one is stamped left. I was having a hard time getting the camera to focus to show you guys, but one is stamped left, one is stamped right. Obviously, we want to get that correct when we put them in the model. Putting the brake line on the end of this fitting wasn't terribly difficult, but you see I struggled a little bit with it, which is fine. The longer one goes on the right side and the shorter one goes on the left side. So we'll move all that out of the way because we have to bring our car back for a second. And the reason we're going to be doing that is because we need to put our oil cooler mesh over top of our differential oil cooler. I do like these meshes. They're very nice. They're very shiny. They're stamped little metal pieces, so they look very good, but you have to be careful with them because they will bend very easily. What we're going to do here is we're going to use 4 XP screws to secure the mesh to the cooler. I was having a little tough time trying to show you guys with the different camera angles. Oh, and by the way, I hate the gloves, but it is what it is. So maybe I'll put a quiz at the end of this video of like how many times I mentioned the gloves. But anyway, we're gonna move on. So we're gonna take that brake line hose from the front of the car, attach it to the back of the car. And then I realized that it'd be easier to put these hoses onto the brake cooler differential by taking this whole assembly off of the car, so I could get proper leverage on it to press fit these puppies into the side of it. So that's one thing that I wish the instructions would have told me prior to putting it on, but honestly, it wasn't that big of a headache. So as you can see, the right side has obviously one, and then the left side has the other. We had those lengths. We'll just put that back onto the car, and we'll flip it over so I can show you what it looks like. Because then what we're gonna do is complete stage 60 and move on to stage 61. And stage 61 is pretty much just working on the Panhard rod. So we're gonna take that. We have a little bracket, our jack screw, and then that jack screw housing, as well as a couple bags of screws to hold everything together, of course. We're gonna take those, and first we're gonna pick up our jack screw, and we position it inside the housing such that the fork goes towards the closed bottom side that you'll see there, and then the top of the screw actually fits into the slot. I was having trouble doing it. I don't really know how else to explain it other than it probably was more difficult than it needed to be from my perspective. But now that we got that in, we can move everything over to the side, because we're gonna grab our rear clip, we're gonna grab our adjusting bracket again, and we're gonna put that into place. It's just kind of press fit to begin with, because we're going to be adding screws here in a second. But one of the things I wanted to point out is you have to get the screw in there as well. So it kind of moves around on you once you get it in place, but again, not terribly difficult. I think I'm just really good at making things look more difficult than they actually are. But we're going to be using 2 AM screws. Crank those down. We are screwing into metal, so it might take a little bit extra force from you, but once you get it locked into place, it looks fantastic, and it is pretty sturdy actually. Then we're going to grab the opposite side of that rear end axle reinforcement brace, and we're going to screw that into the top slot of the jack screw housing, just like that. You can see we do that with 1 ABM screw. Again, you're into metal, so it is a little snug, but assembly oil will make it better. And yeah, I didn't use any of that on this project. We'll just pick up our Panhard rod and start working on that instead. Actually, wait, what's happening? Oh. Yeah, my lower camera died, so we're just gonna do this from the top then, I suppose. So we will grab our Panhard rod, and we will take the flat end of that, and we will put that into this jack screw housing. And what we will do is we will secure that in place using an NP screw. And then after we have that completed, we will grab this little bracket, and we'll take this bracket, and we have to make sure that we get it in the right orientation. I tried to show you here the flat end. It's kind of hard because my other camera died. I'd be able to show it to you a little bit better, but basically what we do is we press fit that onto the top of the adjusting screw housing, just like that. Looks like a little Z actually. And that completes stage 61, and we'll move on to the final stage, number 62. And in this final stage, number 62, we have some things that we've seen before. But the pieces that we have are the rear shock absorber top mounting bar, we have the diagonal rod, disc brake part A and B, we have our center brake caliper, our inner brake caliper, and then our outer brake caliper, and then obviously some bags of screws to hold this thing together. What we'll do first is we'll grab our rear clips, our subframe, we'll take that shock absorber mounting bar, and then obviously we have to attach it the proper way. So there were the holes in the bottom of it that you kind of see that were recessed so that they could be press fit over top of the clip pieces. We're going to use 2 AM screws to get that nice and snug, nice and secure. Again, for this particular step, you're screwing it into metal, a little tight, but if you're using assembly oil, it'll be easier. Then we'll grab the diagonal rod, the rear clip lower subframe, and we'll put that across in this orientation. No, wait, hold on. Let's drop that first. We'll come back to that in a second. As you notice, one side is flatter than the other side. What we do is we actually put it underneath that other rod that we just put in. And this kind of press fits itself into place. Again, thin side on the left here as you see from your screen, and then thick side on the right side as you see from your screen. Both using CM screws to get that to be snug and secure in place. Once we get that done, throw that to the side. You guys have seen this before. Another brake disc we're gonna throw together. Nothing too fancy. It's just plastic, press fit into plastic. I don't know why I struggle with such simple tasks, but I do like to show you guys everything, at least in the videos. Then we're gonna move on to our brake caliper. Again, another thing that you guys have seen. So, you know what? As we're ending this video, as we're wrapping it up and you're watching these things, thank you very, very much for watching a little bit of a longer one today. I hope you enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun editing it. I promise it won't take as much time on the next one, but bear with me. I'm working on it. Oh, by the way, we'll attach the caliper to the bracket using 2 AP screws, and that completes our build for today. So again, thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm out of here. I'm done editing. We'll talk to you in the next video. Bye, everyone.